Hello everyone, you're listening to Northern Flights, a Park Pro podcast keeping you up to date with the people, tournaments, and culture of disc golf in Canada and beyond. Consider becoming a Patreon today at patreon.com/parkpro. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by DiscGolfPark. And now your hosts, Andre, Jesse, and Matt.
Hello, everyone. Where's
Jesse? I don't see him.
Where's Jesse? Jesse couldn't make it today. He had some car troubles, we'll call it. If he wants to tell the story on the next podcast, he can, but we will leave that to him. So it's just Matt and I, but we do have a couple of very special guests. We are going to be talking college disc golf on today's episode, and we're very excited about that. Ooh. Yeah, and that's with Brett and Chris. So they'll be joining us in just a minute. I'm going to mute my phone. And but we also have some Waco preview to do and some other huge news. Dynamic Disc got bought, which is insane. Maybe some people saw it coming with other stuff, but we will chat about that a little bit later as well. Might be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we'll see how it goes. But I think without further ado, I think we bring in our Canadian college professionals. This is Chris Hartmann and Brett Wells.
Hi, guys.
Very nice. It's our traditional welcome.
Yeah. Welcome to Northern Flights, guys. Thank you so much for being on. First of all, why don't you guys introduce yourself? We'll start with Brett. Who are you, Brett?
Hey, everyone. I'm Brett. I'm a university student currently living in Lethbridge, and I started the University of Lethbridge Disc Golf Club. I'm kind of like a local MA1 player, 920 rated. And we got together a competitive team, and we traveled to Vancouver to go play the first Canadian-hosted collegiate event.
Very cool. And Chris, who's Chris?
Yeah, Chris Hartmann. I live in Surrey, British Columbia, and have the opportunity this year to start a university disc golf team at Trinity Western University. Starting it as part of the athletics department, which is quite unique, I think, even in the U.S. for disc golf. And so that's been a really exciting year. I also compete and do some other things with course development and with a company that a colleague and I have. And so it's basically all things disc golf because I retired at the end of June from my real work and the career of 30-some years. So.
That's Congratulations, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now for the real career.
Yeah. Now for the fun.
Yeah.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is Stuart McKissick that is your partner?
Yeah, Stu and I have InDesign Disc Golf, and that's cool. Taking up a lot of our time.
I bet. And if anyone is interested in getting to know Chris and Stu a little bit more, you guys actually did an interview with fellow Canadian podcasters, Flight Paths, with Carrie Neal and Clive. And so go check that out if you want to get to know Stu and Chris a little bit more.
That one we talked a lot about course design, and also did another podcast, On the Brink, that talks a little bit more about my background in disc golf and how I came about it. So there's some of that as well.
Very cool. I'll add that one to my list.
One who's interested. It's not disc golf. It's a podcast about all things Northern British Columbia, and so that was a real neat opportunity in my hometown and do that.
Very cool.
That is really cool.
Cool. But we are going to talk a little bit more about college disc golf. I've noticed that I've seen that PDGA college disc golf logo quite a bit. So it's obviously something that's getting bigger and better. And you listen to a lot of places in the States, there's a lot of programs popping up in colleges. The one that I think most disc golfers may have heard of is the one in Emporia. I feel like I've listened to a number of podcasts where they talked about that. So why don't we start with a few questions actually from Jesse? We asked him if he had any questions for you guys, and I feel like he can get us started off here pretty good. So first, he just wants to know how your guys' programs came to be. How did it all start? And we'll start with Chris.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago in the summer, I was talking with the athletic director at Trinity Western, plays a bit of disc golf, lives close to one of the courses in Langley. And I know him from years ago when we both played volleyball at the school, different times, but through connections through volleyball. We knew each other and might have even played a couple of club tournaments together. I can't quite remember. It's a long time ago. But, he was just talking, we were talking about disc golf and I think he mentioned that he thinks it could be in the future a really good sport to have a part of the college athletics scene. And so, and then I was out at Ontario playing at Foxwood in the fall of that year, and another volleyball guy from Trinity Western from years ago tapped me on the shoulder, and I hadn't seen him in years. And he and his son, Dan Maynard and McKinley, his son, tapped me on the shoulder and introduced themselves because it had been quite a few decades, and talked about how they were playing, and they just happened to be coming out to BC that next weekend. And of course, we talked about how neat it would be to have, be able to play disc golf in college. And so we invited Jeff, the athletic director from Trinity, and we got together out at our home course and played around together. And that kind of started a bit of the discussion. And then one day, Jeff just said to me, I think we're going to do this. And we just need somebody who knows the ins and outs of the sport, knows how it works to kind of get it going. So we're just looking for that. And so that was the bait, I guess, that I was hooked. And I told him that I was retiring in June. And he just looked at me and said, really? And I said, yeah, let's do this. And let's see where it goes. And I think it is a fantastic, sport. And this is a whole area with that age group. And that I think is just starting to really expand out in the high school scenes, and we're starting to see more kids playing. So the timing, I think, was really good. Maybe even a little early. It's still kind of hard to find competitive disc golfers that are playing in high school, especially on the women's side. I think I looked across Canada, there was like 4. So at the beginning of this year, we started and we held an information evening along with some other campus clubs and things, and we had about 45 people sign up, of which that kind of whittled down over the first few weeks, and we ended up with 11 players that decided to kind of really take it seriously, 4 or 5 of which had never touched a disc before our first practice. So it's been pretty exciting to see them get absorbed and get obsessed with it like all of us have. So yeah, we have been playing the players play in community events all through the winter, and then we have our 3 main college events, the one that we hosted at the end of February that Brett brought the team out for, and then next weekend we're heading down to the Northwest Collegiate in Oregon, and then off to nationals in North Carolina at the beginning of April.
Very cool. And Brett, how did you get involved in college disc golf? We were kind of talking a little bit about it before we started recording, but why not tell our listeners as well?
Yeah, for sure. So our club kind of started as an idea over the summer. I was living in Sparwood at the time and playing league up in Elkford, which is where Kevin King lives. And Kevin King was a part of the team back in 2013, the first team to travel from Canada down to the States to go play that Northwest Collegiate event at Milo McIver in Oregon. And one of the other players at the league, Wyatt Wild, he was also going to be going to university. So I was talking with Wyatt and I was like, hey, I think we could get a club started. I think it'd be fun kind of to just formalize and play with a bunch of people throughout the fall. So that was back in August. And then if you recall, Falcons Flight, I think is the first weekend of September. Well, I was on lead card at Falcons Flight MA1 with Ethan Evans, who's also on the U of L team. And we got to talking and kind of he was beating me at the tournament. I was like, man, you're good. And I was telling him oh, I've been playing lots in Lethbridge. That's where I got started. And he's like, oh, cool. I'm going to go to school in Lethbridge. And so immediately I know, okay, well, we have 3 solid, above 900 players that could we could form a team. So from there, it kind of like, it wasn't like competitive wasn't the main focus. It was more about like getting students engaged at school. And so we did a bunch of those sort of like promoting the club and like getting it started, getting all the administrative stuff going. And we got a whole bunch of students to join up. I think we have 40 plus student members, and then we have like a whole bunch of community members that come out to our events. And we were hosting a weekly Flex Start League on Fridays. We called it Fun Flex Fridays, and got a whole bunch of students that have never touched discs. I would just bring a box of extra mids and putters and get them in people's hands, and like go around the course and they would learn disc golf. Because we have a course right on campus, Aperture Park, which is round 2 of the Lethbridge cover that you just put out. And so from there, then we met our 4th member, Evan Anvik, and he moved here from Victoria and joined our team. And then it became, okay, we've got 4 people, like how do we make this a team? And so I go on collegediscgolf.com to like figure out how to do that. And I see, okay, there's going to be an event in Langley. And so then I think it was maybe early October, I emailed Chris. I was like, hey, what's up? How do we register? How do we play? And Chris gave me a bunch of guidance and kind of like gave me the rundown of what the event was going to look like and who to talk to at the college disc golf. So then with all that information, I was able to go to the school and be like, hey, this is what we're doing, put together a plan, a budget, and I was able to get our registration fees paid for by our recreation department, which was like a huge help. And it was cool to see the support come directly from the school. But then we also get student funding from our students' union. And so that actually helped us travel. It paid for our accommodation while we were there. And so it was really like kind of like one step at a time. And I'm really actually like just excited that it got to the stage that it's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you kind of see, you're starting to see a few clubs pop up. I know we have one of our friends here from Invermere. He went to school in University of Calgary, and it sounds like they're trying to get a club together as well. So with that in mind, what is the process and what does it look like trying to get more Canadian colleges involved in this stuff?
Well, hopefully podcasts like this will help spread the word. I think that's, just getting the word out and getting, Brett talked about just finding those players that are interested in kind of putting a team together and then looking for those opportunities. We're hoping to see, a couple more schools at least this year in our region now that are, started to kind of hear about it some more. And some of the players heard about it. We because we only had, it was humble beginnings of the Canadian collegiate disc golf. We had 2 teams that were part of the college disc golf system that were playing with each other at that event. But we also, just to fill out the field and fill out the course, we also had a singles event going at the same time, which included students from other colleges in the area. So we had about 5 or 6 different colleges represented there. So hopefully that'll help, take the word back to some of those schools. And then we also ran almost like a parallel community event. So the same format that Brett and the team and the Trinity team, that it's singles and then it's a 4-person all shot doubles. It's a weird format. Probably the first time it's ever been played in Canada, that format. But so we didn't really know how it was going to go, but we decided to also add a community event where they played singles and played that same quad team format. So it's 4 people against 4 people on each hole. And it went over really well. And I think that helped get a little bit of excitement within the, I won't say the broader disc golf community, because it was still only about 32. There was 8 teams, so 32 other community players. But I think just it gave it some distinction. And people were talking about it. And I've had lots of people from that event now saying, when are we going to do this as a big event? like not even a collegiate event, but we need to do this format as just part of a community event because it's pretty fun. And when you have 4 people on a team all playing, another team of 4, it's a whole different feel. And so yeah, we're already in the works of trying to put something together. And you can also have a double the number of people out on the course. So 144 people easily instead of 72. So it could be a pretty exciting day. So yeah, just spreading the word about it and getting more people interested and aware. Like I said, we're starting to make connections with some other universities and colleges, and there's some interest. But I think it's, for the most part, it's going to take, like at Lethbridge, some students getting together and kind of, we had a bit of a unique situation at Trinity Western where Jeff just decided to jump in and let's make this a collegiate sport. And let's, if this is where we want to be 5 or 10 years from now, then let's, even if we're starting with one team, but let's, go out and, lead away and see if we can get some other schools to eventually make their way there. So our athletes don't have to pay for their trips, and they get that paid for. And there's a bit of scholarship as well. So the kids get a bit of an athletic scholarship for being one of the varsity team, because we have kind of a varsity and a junior varsity. So we'll see how it goes. And I was just really impressed with, the AD, Jeff, just saying, look, let's just do it and see what happens. And so here we are. And I think we had a real fun start at the end of February. And I'll just talk about the last day, Brett. The event was the singles, where 4 players play singles, and it's the average score of those players that goes for the team score. So then you get into this one round of team play, and so you have one score. And then the third round was going to be then back to singles on Sunday morning. It snowed about 11 inches on Saturday night. So we were the only people that showed up, just our 2 teams at the course on that morning. And I knew it was about 11 inches because you held a disc vertically in the snow, and there was about 2 inches above the disc. So, we're kind of looking at each other, and Brett's team gets there. I guess they're used to playing in snow more often than we are because they get their bags and they're ready to go. But we kind of looked at it, and discs would disappear under the snow, and we thought probably not the best in terms of a competitive environment. So we decided just to kind of call the official event after the first 2 rounds. The first 2 rounds were done incomplete, like it was dry and no snow on the ground at all. So then what we did is we decided to just do a alt shot doubles, and we mixed up the teams. So one person from Trinity and one person with Lethbridge went together as a team.
Cool.
And the person who wasn't throwing, the reason why I went alt shot is the person that wasn't throwing went down the fairway and watched their partners dip and dug it out to get ready. So in a way, it was kind of, I think it's maybe even better than, finishing on a competitive way, just, bringing that community together and some, it was a bit of fun. Absolutely exhausting, at least for me, maybe not for some of the young guys, but I was exhausted. I went home that night and slept, had a nap at 4:00. And I don't take very many naps. And my wife just said, like, you're taking a nap now, you're never going to sleep tonight. At 10:00, I was out again. So I was pretty exhausted. But it was fun. It was kind of a fun wrap up. And, we just finished having, just playing Canadian disc golf and having a great time. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Tons of fun.
Tremendous.
What do you recommend to, say, other students from other colleges that were kind of in a similar boat to you? What do you recommend to them to get something started at their college?
There's actually a lot of resources online. If you go onto the college disc golf website, they've got full pamphlet guides of kind of giving you a dialogue and how to approach your school and kind of what the steps to take are. And one of the things is maybe you're not lucky enough to have a competitive team right away. You're the only one interested in competitive disc golf at your school. But what you can do is you can get that club started and you can generate interest. And we obviously have the privilege of having a course right on campus, and it's pretty easy for students to step out of classes and go play a few holes on the course if you give them a frisbee, right? So
After the classes are done, you mean?
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. I go out on break or a lunch break or whatever, and I go to the practice basket. It's a real privilege as a student that likes disc golf. But like for schools that are like looking to take that next step, then it becomes more about the administrative side. And like so like what I found success with is like going there's two different departments that have helped me a lot. One being our like sports and recreation department, and the director there is like really been a big supporter, and he's one of the main reasons why we have the course on campus. And so there's I guess a few executives on like the board of directors at the university that really like disc golf as well. And so he's kind of got their ear, and I've got his ear, and so he helped with the funding, and he's helped with like kind of like some general guidance with like questions or like problems I'm dealing with. But then we also have the students union, which provides a lot of support with like in general getting any club started, right, and getting funding and like planning events and like just I guess as a student that wants to build a club, you have to go out there and you have to talk to these people. You have to have the meetings. You have to understand how your school operates and like what resources are available to you. And the only way to do that is to start talking to people.
Yeah, and I'll put out there right now that anybody who has any interest in, I'll be doing this again next year, and we're hoping to do another event. Hopefully, have a few more teams. But happy to take any calls and help navigate what the college system means and how it works. And a bit of a learning curve for us this year. The college system wasn't like the registration system wasn't even set up for Canadian addresses and all. So Brett and I were kind of going through like trying to get the PDGA memberships and for events, but we couldn't pay with a Canadian credit card and all those things. But that's all kind of worked through now. The website and everything is all up and running. So, but I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody who's interested in setting up a team and even potentially participating in an event next year. And now that we've been through it for 1 year, probably have some good advice for people, and I'm sure Brett would be willing to reach out as well. So,
absolutely, I've already been. Well, I was trying to hound the U of C to come as well because I've been chatting with them, and we're going up to participate in their college tournament that they're hosting on March 25th. They do it a bit different of a format. They're doing just kind of like a more of a singles tournament. They're not actually affiliated through college disc golf,
Right.
but it's the second year that they're running it. And so the first year they ran it with just the U of C and SAIT. And so now Lethbridge is going to join. So it's like a slow process. We're growing, but not everyone is able to like get that funding and that level of commitment to then become a traveling team. And I think even in like the Northwest states, I'm sure they kind of go through a similar problem. Like it seems like college disc golf is centralized in like the southeast part of the United States because that's where all the teams that can drive to the tournaments and play the once or twice a month kind of events. Whereas if you look at the map on collegediscgolf.com, the Northwest, like I think they deal with a lot of the struggles that Canadian teams are going to run into, where it's just like if you want to play an event, it's a huge expense and you have to get your school on board, and like there's a lot that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Oregon is the closest teams. There haven't been any teams in Washington, at least recently, and so Oregon's got a few teams. And I just noticed with the event down there, a team from Idaho, from Boise, is going to be participating. So, but yeah, it's still to drive, even go down to Oregon, it's about a 6.5 hour drive for us next week. So that's quite long. But
yeah,
hopefully we'll see some colleges in between joining in.
I'd love to know what the role, if any, in the future, the CCAC and I think it's called U Sports now, former CIAU, are those kind of associations in the sites for college disc golf and university disc golf in Canada, or is that sort of out of the question in the future, or what's that like?
Yeah, I think it's early. Certainly the athletic director at Trinity, Jeff, thinks that down the road, there's no reason why a sport like disc golf and how it's emerging couldn't be a U sport and a CCAC a sport in the future. I think it takes at least 1 and 2, 3 kind of get it going, to just get that intercollegiate play going for the next step to be considered on a campus. But there are some plans to try to get that word out potentially at with the U Sports as example, just an orientation of being able to talk to people and maybe get people as a group and talk a little bit of what's happening with the sport and maybe generate interest. And but yeah, I think it's really early days for that. Most of the teams, I'm sure, from a budget perspective and stuff, are trying to do what they've already got and keep all their existing programs running. But to see this sport, and especially if it gets done regionally, you could have quite a few teams and for pretty low cost, as the sport generally is, unless you're going to travel some distance.
It'd be great to see it in the next 5 or 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is maybe more of a question for Brett, because he lives somewhere where they actually have a winter. No offense, Chris. How do you guys structure your season? Because it's obviously the typical university season is the September to May timeline. So how do you guys structure your year?
It has been a little tricky. Lethbridge is a little bit better than Calgary in terms of, like, I think it's like the Florida of Alberta. Like we get the Chinooks a little bit better. And so we had, I've played disc golf every month of the year on grass. And this January, when I think it was warm most places, we had 3 weeks where it was grass and no wind. Like Lethbridge, the wind is usually a problem. But we've had a very cold, windy February, and so we still get out and we play in the snow. It is generally like hard packed and maybe more ice than snow at times. So it's still very possible, and our temperatures are usually between that +5 and -5 kind of. So we're no Edmonton. I grew up in Edmonton.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah. All right. You're allowed to say that then.
Yeah. So it's been good, but like most of our we haven't been able to have formal practice sessions like Chris's team. We've been able to play on the weekend occasionally, and we've been doing indoor putting. Lethbridge has a disc golf association, and they do putting league on Tuesday nights throughout the winter. And then we started one up as an additional night at the university on Thursday nights. And so it's been a good way to like still have discs in our hands and kind of like keep with it. But yeah, that's kind of what our seasons look like.
Cool. How about you, Chris? Like, it sounds like you've got some structured things. You got training session days. Is this a year-round thing, once a week? Like, what's the season like, and what's the time commitment like for your athletes?
Yeah, we've been holding a practice on campus on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the later afternoon, heading up into the dinner hour. We've got a recreation field out on the other side of the railroad tracks, and it's about 500 feet long and probably a couple 100 feet wide that we get to use. And it's also has like 3 or 4 massive spotlights. So it's actually lit up at night. So when it's dark, we get a chance to go out there and play. And when the fog's rolling in and the lights are shining, it kind of looks like from an old football movie from the U.S. somewhere. So we do that. We had a few times this year when the weather wasn't great, and so we have ace runners nearby, and they have an indoor putting and a big net to throw into with a radar gun. And so we went there a few times. John opened up his back of the warehouse there for us to go, and there was a putting league later that some of the players participated in. And then the way it worked out this year, none of the players on our team, and I think maybe Trinity, I'm not sure about this, but I think Trinity tries to run most of their courses on Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursdays. So none of our players had a course on Friday this year. So we had either Friday morning or Saturday morning. Most weekends we would try and get out and play around together at mostly at Raptors, which is the kind of the closest one. But we also went to some other courses, Passive Park, and then playing community events as well. So the players, some of them are also taking advantage of the strength and conditioning program within athletics. So they've been doing some work. Our strength and conditioning coach there has really become quite intrigued by the sport and is enjoying having the players join with the athletes from other teams. And so that's another part that some of them do that a couple of times a week.
I'm just gonna, Andre, while you ask the next question, I'm just gonna Google master's programs at Trinity Western. See if there's any that I can qualify for with my GPA.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of brings up the question: what does the eligibility look like? Do you only have 4 years or 5 years of eligibility, like in your classic sports programs, or?
Yeah, college disc golf has 6 years of eligibility, and so you could keep playing right through to the completion of a master's program or PhD maybe, although you probably wouldn't have time. But yeah, and the eligibility is you just have to be you have to be a minimum of a half-time student. So for the events that we go to, you have to get a roster validation from your registrar and that kind of thing. But halftime, or if a person is in their final year and just has to finish one course to graduate, that still keeps them eligible for that year. So it's quite inclusive at this point. Like they're really trying to make it easy for colleges to be able to participate and be eligible. And almost any type of post-secondary education or school is able to have a college disc golf team. So really inclusive. It's starting to get pretty big now with, I think last year, maybe 500 and some players at the national championships. Wow. So I can see where, they're going to have to do something. Right now they have Division I, Division II, Division III all at the same location. And these regional qualifiers that we hold kind of allow you to win a bid to Division I or Division II, or anybody who plays in a regional can then go into Division III. So they're starting to get pretty big, and the more universities that come, I can see things having to change in the future. But right now, going and participating in an event like that, even as a coach, I think it'll be pretty cool to see 500 college students all playing at different levels and on all different levels. Some are quite elite, and then some that look like some of ours that have just started playing because of this. At the very top end, there's an elite disc golfer list. There's several criteria that if you reach that point, then you're not eligible for college disc golf anymore. So if you've earned so much money as a pro, if you're over 1,000 rated for a period of time, and there's a top end, but it's pretty high. The list last year maybe was about 160 people in the world, I guess, that weren't eligible for college disc golf.
Cool. And then Chris, just want to touch on your coaching title. Do you find it's more of like a chaperone type deal, or are you actually teaching these people? You said you had some fairly new players. Are you sort of teaching them proper form? And the players that you have that have played before, what value do you think they're getting out of that?
Yeah, you probably should ask them. They might listen to me now and go, "What?" But certainly with the new people playing, a real first semester was a lot of foundational work with that group, and the athletes that had a couple of years experience playing were really helpful in that and doing a lot of one-on-one. So those new people starting, they really have benefited from 4 or 5 coaches on the team helping them along. And when you get into playing doubles and partners and stuff, you really you've got a coach there beside you when you have someone with experience, and the team is really, it's just kind of an amazing how they've come together, and it's a pretty cool tight-knit group. So yeah, on the other end, there's some things that are pretty hard for me to teach. 2 of our guys throw really far. McKinley Baynard won the amateur disc competition or distance competition at Las Vegas last year. I think in the preliminary round he threw like 630 feet. So when he was talking about coming out to Trinity, I said, "Hey, just to let you know, I'm not going to be able to teach you how to throw 650." And so Now, that being said, pretty new to the sport still, like only a year or two in. So I've been playing, competitively for 10 years. So with them, a lot of it is helping them, I think, understand the sport and the scoring side of it as opposed to just the throwing side. And so I think that's where, with that group, I'm probably having more of an impact. There's so many YouTube videos, and they're watching them every day, and of instruction, and so they're out there more often than I'm out on campus and working on their form. But yeah, we did with all of them. We did video work and slow motion video analysis at the Ace Runners, where we could set that up and just kind of walk them through and have them throwing into a net and using the radar gun to see what made a difference, and then just kind of creating drills and creating situations that are working on the different skills. You can't just go out to a field twice a week for 2 hours each and just throw around. So that's been a little bit. There's not a lot if you kind of Google disc golf team drills to do. There's not a lot out there. So some of that's been creating those things. I've coached other sports. I coached university volleyball, and actually went to a drill design workshop for a 3-day weekend where we learned how to take what you're trying to accomplish on the court and how do you build drills and repetition to help get what you're looking for. And so I've actually found that been really helpful, digging that knowledge up again and saying, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here as a team? And as we're getting ready to play these guys that are coming from Lethbridge, what do we need to kind of work on our game, and how do we create scenarios out in the practice field that hopefully duplicate some of that, the pressure and things that go along with that, and the precision. And like most of us, it's fun to go out in a field and throw, but then you get in, you start playing, and being 40 or 50 feet away from the target, might look good if you've just thrown 450 feet, but it doesn't really make, a person can throw 300 feet and you're still going to get the same score. So learning how to, create that sense of precision and has been part of what we do, and working at disc angles. And so that part's been kind of fun for me, and to take what I've learned in coaching other sports and try to duplicate some of that. One of the drills we did yesterday was just looking at pressure putting, and we all talk about, well, we practice putting, and I throw 200 putts at I get into a tournament, I can't make a 20-footer. And so we did a drill yesterday, just as an example, that this comes from the volleyball days, where we had scenarios where you had to throw from shorter distances into tight circles around baskets, and you had to make 6 in a row on 2 different baskets from 6 different distances to different, one was a 20-foot radius, the other one was a 12-foot radius. Of course, that one was closer. And so only after you're able to do all 6 in a row, you got one chance to putt. And so you went and you putted from 15 feet. And if you made that one, then you started again and you went through, and now you're putting from 20 feet. And so you see how far, but you only get one putt. So sometimes it took them 20 minutes to get that 6 in a row. And now they're faced with one putt, or they start all over again. And so it was kind of fun. And I think just trying to find scenarios, that more closely duplicate what's happening when we get into tournament play. And everybody always talks about, I just play so much better when I'm not in a tournament. And then I get a tournament and I get freaked out and my putting falls apart. And so part of the fun is trying to duplicate some of that and help people feel comfortable in those situations. So for me, that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Brett, do you find yourself playing more of the player coach type deal? Or are you guys looking for outside help in that aspect, or kind of teaching
question.
each other?
So we actually brought on a coach. You guys might know him from the Alberta tournament scene. He's a local MPO player here. Eric Fast joined us kind of as a friend and coach, and like I think I asked him one night, we were hosting our Glow event, and I was like, hey, do you want to help with the team? Do you want to like share your wisdom? Because he is a very he's really good game sense. And I think when you have a team of younger disc golfers, they do a lot of things well. They do a lot of things wrong at the wrong time. And so he's been a little bit of like a a disc golf sage or or a disc golf therapist of sorts. So he comes with us and he plays our practice rounds with us, and he'll kind of like bring us aside and like one on one, and he'll just like ask questions like, what are you thinking about? Like, why are you like, why did you choose that shot? Or kind of like talking about the different tee shots that you can make on the disc golf course, and like, okay, well, what's the good miss, what's the bad miss, what sort of results, and what are the probabilities behind those results, and so lots of conversations like that. And then he also did do a little bit of drills and like stat tracking with us. We made a team spreadsheet to track our putting percentages and our accuracy from different distances. And like, while we haven't had as properly structured practice, it's just kind of been a like, okay, you can do practice on your own, and then you have this consultant or coach to then talk about your game with. And it's really good to have someone that's like a third party watching you make your swing, watching you putt, and then asking you a question that really makes you think about what you're doing in a way that you might not have just doing it on your own. So that's been really helpful. And shout out to Eric. He's wonderful.
Oh, you're muted, Matt.
Thanks. That's so sweet. I might stop calling him Wish.com Eagle McMahon just from hearing that. I only meant that in the best possible way, Eric. If you're listening, it means you're
I'm
very,
sure
very
he'll
close to
listen to
being
this.
Eagle McMahon. Eric is a tall, lanky, hard throwing, good putting player, and he's a pleasure to play with. So it doesn't really surprise me that he's helping you guys out with the program. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
So do you think that your players, the players that are in the program right now, and maybe any future players, do you think that disc golf is something that they'll want to pursue beyond their college years, maybe professionally? Is that one of the goals of collegiate disc golf, or is it more just trying to get another way of having competitive disc golf for another demographic? Either one of you.
Chris,
Yeah,
you
go
want to
ahead,
take
Brett.
that one first?
Okay,
Oh, okay, I'll go.
sure. Okay, you go.
Okay. I don't know how, like, whenever someone's playing competitive disc golf, like, I think there's always that sense of improvement and wanting and having that. You need to have that drive to like see how far you can push yourself. I don't think it's. I think it's like a natural competitiveness. I don't know if it's necessarily guided towards like, oh, I think I could make the pro tour. But I think disc golf is a really unique niche sport where that it's still growing, and you see people on the pro tour that are just athletic, like have really athletic backgrounds, and they pick up disc golf, and in 2 or 3 years they're on tour and competing, and maybe even top tenning. Like, there's like the Brody Smith coming from Ultimate, or like, I just listened to a podcast about Caroline Henderson, the FBO that top 10 at Vegas. She was a softball player and has been playing disc golf for less time than I have. Like, she's been playing since early 2021, I think, and is now FPO on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Like, so I think there's an aspect of you always wondering, oh, could that be me? And there is like a little bit of a drive, but I don't know. Like, I haven't talked to any of our players like seriously about that. I know that they all want to push themselves and take it as far as they can go, but I think it's more like, okay, I think I can, like, it's steps, right? So I think I can cash at a local C tier. Okay, well, I think I could cash at a regional B tier. Okay, let's try MPO at an A tier, and then you go from there, right?
Yeah, and like you kind of the gist of what I kind of got from that is also it's maybe a little bit early in collegiate disc golf in Canada for people to have those aspirations. But what do you think about that, Chris? Do you think in the future that's something that this could lead towards?
Yeah, I think so. I hear a little bit. I agree with Brett. I think at this point it's still, how far can I take myself in the sport and enjoying that learning curve and that improvement cycle that people go through. And the early, as I think we all know, the early part of that happens so quickly and it really draws people into the sport. And then as you get better and better, it gets harder and harder to continue to see that obvious improvement. But I think we're going to see more of it now, especially with with a newer generation of people that are being exposed to this sport earlier. At the same time as you're starting to see, people being able to at least pay their expenses to tour around or play 20 events a year and have it pay for itself. And we'll see where that goes. Maybe I keep developing, and maybe I could go and spend a couple of years on tour. I'm not hearing anybody yet thinking that this is how they're going to make their living. They're still looking at, no, university is still, that's kind of my future. That's how I'm going to pay the bills. But I think there's more. It's out there now as a possibility, and I think that'll grow. And I think we'll start to see people that say, no, this is an opportunity to go, and as it expands across colleges and you start having coaches and things, to be able to be in an environment where you play with a team, which is kind of a neat experience, playing an individual sport in a team environment and developing those really close relationships, but also structured training and some of our guys working with strength and conditioning coach. That might not pay off in the first year, but doing that for 2 or 3 years, that's all part of prevention of injuries and throwing well and being fit for the sport. But I think it's a little bit more on people's mind as, maybe a possibility. That'd be kind of fun if I could do that for a few years. Certainly a lot more than it was 3 years or 4 years ago. And part of that's the new money coming into the sport as well. And just the profile. But we're just starting to see the rapid increase in junior players. In BC, we had our BC Open each year, or provincial championships. And 3 years ago, I think there was maybe 5 juniors playing in it. And this last year held the first provincial junior championship, and it was a full, I think 70 or 72, or maybe it ended up being about 68 juniors out there. And what I noticed the most was this is a group that's starting to not just enjoy disc golf and going out with the local club, but you're starting to see some of those friendships across cities and that are starting to develop. And we have juniors here now that are going to Worlds, and they're staying together with the families, and you see them get together at events, and there's the juniors all hanging out there and laughing and spending as much time talking about their round as they did playing it, like we all do. So there's an excitement growing there, and as they start playing and people start learning about it in their high schools, you're going to see more people playing, and there's a few kind of grassroots high school things starting to happen in BC, and I think that's just gonna open up and the sport to so many more people, and that's the group that's going to look ahead and say, hey, maybe I could combine my education, work on my disc golf game, and maybe when I finish my degree, or take a year or two off in the middle of your degree and go maybe tour. I think that's much more in the minds. I mean, that's long in my rearview mirror, but I think that new generation has that out there as a possibility now. And I know some of them I've listened to some of them think that'd be really cool to do that. And and we're starting to see a few more Canadians participating in some of the the major events and things. So 5 or 10 years from now, I think we could be there.
I'm super bullish about this whole thing. I think, for me personally, I didn't take part in any clubs even really in university, let alone any sports. And obviously, partly that was because I was just not athletic at all. But if there had been a college disc golf, even just a club, just a semi-organized club when I was in university, I would have absolutely enjoyed that. And I also don't think it'll be that long before, there's going to be disc golfers coming out of high school wondering, well, I got to choose between this university and this university. And well, this one's got a good disc golf team, and I can play with, these people that I know from tournaments, and they're the best in the province. And I really don't think we're that far away from that in Canada. So kudos to you guys for getting these programs off the ground, because I think, looking back in 5 or 10 years or sooner, you guys will be, sitting on a history of proud success for those universities and colleges, because you guys started early. So I'm super optimistic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a critical mass there, right? You got to start somewhere, and I think the fact that this first year we started and we had a club kind of approach, and we also had an athletics type of approach is great, because it shows it doesn't have to be one or the other, and there's different paths forward. And I think once you start to see a few of them develop, more will come on quickly. And 2 is probably not quite the critical mass, but maybe if we get to 4 or 6 in Western Canada competing, maybe next year, then all of a sudden, I think colleges start to look around and go, hey, there's something happening here, and maybe we should look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and you guys both kind of briefly mentioned it. This is going to be my last question. Do you see college is kind of high school has always kind of been a feeder for college, right? So people want to go to university after high school. Do you think your more high school programs are going to pop up? And do you think that will help drive this collegiate disc golf thing forward as well? Because, you got to, like you said, you got to start somewhere. And I remember in my ultimate days, we were kind of talking about how do we get more people to play ultimate? And the idea was, well, let's go to schools, let's go to high schools, introduce it to them. And that will then, feed our cities with more ultimate players. But you can kind of take that same approach to disc golf. And what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's happening. I think when you have courses in communities being developed, and players start to play, and teachers and potential coaches are playing, the more people we have in the sport, the more you're going to have people from that setting. You're going to have more teachers playing, and more teachers are going to lead to saying, hey, why don't we do something at our school? Last weekend I was playing in an event and talked to a teacher from Salt Spring Island, and he was talking about there's a few schools that are talking about getting a kind of a little disc golf competition amongst the high schools going. Pender Island, there was a teacher in the school there that really helped get the kids involved, and they have a course on their school grounds. Like, I think there's 38 holes that they've created with 3 baskets or something. But it's really cool. They've been working at this, and you have a whole a large group of kids that are now starting to play tournaments, and some of their parents are starting to play tournaments, and they're going together. And around Raptors, we've seen the schools starting to get involved, and the schools are starting to put baskets on the school ground for practice, and they have temporary ones so they can set up a 3-hole course. And now we see juniors out there playing on weekends, together. And that, 5 years ago, you just never saw that. And now on a Saturday, you go out and there's 4 kids that are 14 years old, and they're all playing together. And it's just a matter of time, and it takes the leadership to do it. And I think we're starting to see more teachers that are playing. So that's going to, I think, naturally, just a few pieces coming together that are just going to merge in, and it'll just be a natural.
The only thing I have to add to that is, there's a bunch of teachers in Southern Alberta that are kind of, whispering about it, and that they're very interested in. And a few of the supporters of our club, like I've had conversations with Horizon Discs, one of the shops that supports us, is like their vision for wanting to support the club is to get it into high schools in the communities surrounding Lethbridge, and then feeding into the university. And really grow the sport that way. But it takes leadership and initiative, and the teachers to get the baskets into the schools and that sort of thing. And I guess maybe DiscGolfPark, the school DiscGolfPark thing.
This guy's a pro.
Yeah.
Listen to a few of those spiels.
Yeah. Well, you'll listen to another one pretty soon here, I think. I just have one last comment, and it's mostly, we've chatted about what it takes to get Canadian disc golf kind of to that next level, to get more pros down south. And another big thing is just getting more courses. And, speaking of design and speaking of DiscGolfPark, schools and whatnot, and obviously, Chris, you have a hand in design as well. I think one of the biggest benefits to college disc golf is that, especially down in the States, you see a lot of disc golf courses in colleges. University of Lethbridge, you guys have a disc golf course on site. One of the benefits I see is, just getting more disc golf courses in these colleges, in these areas, and, having that be sort of another little feeder, even if it's not for the program itself, just having people being able to play on campus, whether they're from the school or not. I think that's going to play a huge role in growing the sport in Canada as well. So that's all I got. I don't know if you got, Matt, do you have any more questions, or you guys have comments on that?
I don't really have any more questions or anything, but I'm just so excited about this whole thing personally, and I really am jealous that I could go back to university, but man, I was a terrible student. So I can't wait to find out how this is going to go in the next couple of years, and I hope we get to check back in with you guys on a regular basis, and want to hear about rivalries that are building up and cool trips that you guys take. So I'm just so impressed that you guys are doing it. That's one of my favorite things about disc golf, is that there's so much out there that you can do, and it just takes people like you guys to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it. We're gonna make it happen, and then it happens. So, good job, guys.
Really kind words. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on and giving us the opportunity to talk about college disc golf. And this is all part of getting that word out there. And I think it's going to take a few different people working together and to get the message out. And there's more people out there that are looking to have something like this as part of their college experience. So the more we can talk about it and get it out there, and the more we'll have people step up and take it on. So
Cool.
Thanks for helping.
Thanks for having us, guys. It's been really fun to chat with you. I really enjoy listening to the show. And disc golf is such a passion, and I just love talking about it. So thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate that. I think there's a lot of value in this for our listeners, especially any that are aspiring students. So I think that they'll get a lot out of this. And is there a way for our listeners to reach out to you guys if they have any questions? How can they find you guys if they want to get involved?
I just give them my email address. I don't know if that's normal on a podcast, but if there's any students out there that want to talk about how to get a club started, just send me an email. I'm brett.wells@uleth.ca, and reach out to me that way.
And I'll do the same thing. We'll use my coach Chris at hotmail.ca. So
nice. Awesome. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks, you guys. Look forward to future episodes.
Awesome.
Wow, that was awesome. Really good conversation with those two guys. Really appreciate having them on. It's college disc golf is, that's a sign that the sport's growing. And it's a sign that it's growing in Canada. I'm excited to see how many other colleges get involved. So
yeah, I remember when the guys in Calgary announced that they were developing a program, and I was like, oh, why didn't I even think about that? This is going to be the future. And it's just the perfect thing to do in college. You go to college or university, oftentimes you're going to a different city, and you're having to make a whole new set of friends, and you're reinventing yourself and trying out new things. And disc golf is the perfect avenue for all of that. So it's a total no-brainer. And I really am very excited to find out where it goes, and I can't wait to be able to cheer for the University of Alberta disc golf team, my local my alma mater.
yeah.
Which I don't know if they have one, but maybe I should look into that and talk to the local club and see if anyone's working on that.
Totally. Yeah, and I kind of touched on it a little bit. If any of these colleges are looking to install a course on their property, Disc Golf Park is probably the one that you want to get. Disc Golf Park is a unique disc golf course concept developed in Finland back in 2005. It is based on the idea of building sports facilities in an environmentally friendly way. Disc Golf Park provides great experiences for players of all skill levels, from beginners to professionals. Our main ideology is to introduce disc golf to new audiences, including universities and colleges. There are a number of options to suit any kind of course, and all official disc golf parks include professional and safe course design, Disc Golf Park Pro targets, tee pads, and tee signs, as well as an info board to welcome players to your course. The Disc Golf Park World concept consists of multiple courses designed for different types of players. Multi-golf is a new, fun activity for the whole family. In multi-golf, 3 forms of golf are played: foot golf, disc golf, and park-style pitch and putt. School Disc Golf Park offers the students a new and interesting form of exercise for the physical education classes. A course suitable for schools can be designed even on a small area, for instance, a schoolyard. Furthermore, the costs of School Disc Golf Park are lower than those of regular disc golf parks. We also offer private and group lessons or clinics. For more information, check out the website at discgolfpark.com and request a quote today. One of the things I was just thinking of as we were reading that and talking about this whole School Disc Golf Park concept is that you don't necessarily need to set up a full course on these universities. Chris and
No.
Brett talked about training, and if you can set up a little course or a little the idea of simulating some of these shots and pressure situations you can get, that's even a little facility on site for that kind of stuff would be kind of interesting. So,
Yeah, 3 baskets, 6 baskets. You can get a lot done with minimal amount of equipment.
Yeah,
for sure.
Cool. All right, we can get off the college talk for a little while. I just quickly want to bring up the Memorial last weekend, the Big 8 here. Jordan Mowens finishes
Hell yeah.
7th, top 10.
Hell
Huge
yeah,
congrats. Yeah.
Yeah. She
Really cool
is-
to see.
I'm glad that she's playing some more high-level events in the States, because we have so much disc golf talent. Even just in the Mowens family, we have so much disc golf talent in this country.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other one to note is Chris Oslands. He cashed. He finished 33rd. So congrats to him as well.
Well done, Chris.
Yeah.
I think it's because we sent him a good luck message before the tournament.
I think so.
I'm not going to take all credit for it, but
we could take a little bit though.
I think we could take a little bit of credit.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Waco's coming up tomorrow. We are recording this on Thursday night, so when you are listening to this, Waco will have started. Yes, I just want to. I think I touched on this last year because I think we started the podcast pretty close to this time or something. I remember bringing it up. Waco will always hold a special place in my heart because it was the very first tournament I watched.
No way.
Yes, I watched Jomez, and I remember watching Waco. It was, I don't even remember who won it that year. I just remember that was the tournament that I watched, and so it was kind of like my first introduction to these pro level courses and stuff. And it's just, I think it's a really cool course. So I'm really excited to watch it this weekend.
I'm a big fan of it as well, and there have been so many memorable events and holes, and I think it was one of the first times we really saw James Conrad on lead card. I think he almost won it one year. That was really cool. Obviously, it was the site of the tour getting canceled, and that was our Rudy Gobert fondling the microphone moment in disc golf.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're stopping disc golf now, right now, before the tournament's over.
In the middle of the tournament.
In the middle of the tournament, Paul Macbeth dropped a monster round at Waco one year. We had Valerie Mondujano with that insane shot on hole 17 down the hill, which would I just get nervous thinking about one day having to try throwing that shot. in the wind. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great course, and there's been a ton of really good memories, and it's right at the start of the year too. So you don't really know how good everyone is yet and who put in the work in the off season. And out of nowhere, Nico Lacastro comes and wins, and you think, oh man, is this the year of Nico Lacastro? Like, all kinds of fun things happen at Waco. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just a good all-around course because there's a lot of mix of good wooded golf and, it's park golf as well.
Hmm.
So that's very cool. I just wanted to touch on the Canadians that are at the Waco, and obviously Thomas Gilbert's there, and good friend of the podcast, Max, made it down.
No longer a host.
No longer a host.
He's done. He's
Yeah,
cut.
yeah, cut. He's back to being guest status. He obviously can come on whenever he wants to talk about tour life. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
not in
got
a
the
host
RV
capacity.
working, made it down to the Discmania factory, and then made it all the way down to Texas.
Yeah, it's a
Check
big
it out on
drive.
Google Maps. Yeah, look on Google Maps if from Invermere to Waco, Texas. Just look it up and imagine having to drive that in an RV.
Yeah,
So excited to see how he does this year.
yeah. While we're on the MPO side, I don't think there's no Canadian women playing. So while we're on the MPO side here, do you have any favorites for Waco?
Outside of the people in my draft, you mean?
Yes, outside of the people in your draft.
Well, now that Ricky is done, aside from the fact that he's on my draft team, he might have been my favorite. He usually plays pretty well. This is one of the things about Waco is that it's like it seems like it's different people all the time. But you know what? It's too obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm going to go with Paul McBeth. I think he's going to be pissed off about not quite making the comeback a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas, and I think he has the game and has had the track record of success, and I think he's the kind of guy that would want to put down a couple of hot rounds out there.
Yes, I agree. He's obviously one of the favorites. He'll always be one of the favorites as long as he's Paul McBeth and he's playing. I think he'll
Are you calling
be
me a front
favored.
runner? You calling
Yeah,
me a front runner, Andre?
calling you front runner.
Come on.
Do you have any maybe not as obvious players that you think might do well on this course?
I think we saw Brody Smith have a not too bad tournament there. I feel like a year or two ago.
Yeah, and I do believe this was the very first tournament that he played as well.
Yeah.
I have a memory of that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Brody Smith. Like he had at least one good round at Las Vegas. So his game is there. It's just inconsistent. And maybe this is the one.
Would you say he's a
I'm not gonna
dark
say my dark
horse?
no, he's not my dark horse pick. That'd be cheesy. Who are you picking? Who's your favorite? Who's your non-dark horse? Dark horse.
So I think, it's funny. I was going through my they have the pick six here on UDisc Live, and obviously I had Paul McBeth in there. The other guy I really like on this course is Chris Dickerson. I think Chris Dickerson could do really well. Yeah, I think it lays out for him pretty well. Just his type of game. I like Ezra Aderhold. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see him do well on this course. I feel like he's kind of due for a win at some point. So why not make it Waco? Maybe not the course that suits his game the best, but kind of interesting. Would be interesting to see him win it. So.
Oh yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of tunnels. I don't think he's the most accurate.
No. But we'll see. We'll have to see how that plays out. Onto the FPO side, it's
We have a
an
field.
interesting.
We almost have a full field.
Yes. The thing that I wanted to bring up, and she's been getting a lot of hype, is Caroline Henderson. You heard Luke, or keep calling him Luke. You heard Brett. You heard Brett talk about her, briefly touch on her. She finished in the top 10 at Las Vegas Challenge. Like he mentioned, he was on a few interviews. She is a driven player. She comes from an athletic background. She's determined. Her and her husband sold their house back in 2021 to
Yeah.
commit to the
Had,
tour.
had,
Like,
had one
that's
good tournament and then was like, yep, we're doing this. Sell the house.
yeah, like, and I think when she sold her house, I think they broke it down when they sold her house, she was 860 rated, I believe, or 840. I don't know. It's crazy.
I was going to bring this up, and Brett mentioned it during the interview, but there is such an opportunity for women in disc golf.
Huge.
If you know a reasonably athletic, coordinated woman, please do everything you can to get them into disc golf, and don't make it, boring and pedantic and like, the stereotypical golf husband, constantly giving lessons, and just try to find a way to, get them to see how much fun disc golf is, because there's literally no limit to the upside for an athletic woman getting into the sport right now.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's funny because my wife is actually she's very athletic, and I am convinced that she would do really well if she committed even an ounce of effort to playing disc golf. But it's just not her thing. So, and that's fine too. She's more of the ultra marathon runner, but
Yeah.
if she does ever want to take it up, I think she'd do well. I just think the thing that I find interesting is that they put Caroline Henderson on the lead
Yeah,
card, the
no
feature
pressure.
card, with Paige Pierce and Kristen Tatar, and
Yeah.
then Lieke Lorenzen as well. And I believe Lieke is there because she's a prodigy player, and this is a prodigy event.
I think she's the only prodigy player in FPO. I'm just having a quick scan. I don't really recognize. Maybe they have another player in there somewhere, but they don't really have an FPO team at the high level in North America,
No,
with Heather Young still on hiatus, indefinite hiatus. So, but hey, she's a good player. She's still 934 rated, and she can throw down some good rounds. So,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
So I guess my question is, are you buying into the Caroline Henderson hype?
She's gonna be up against it on feature card on day one. She made chase card at Las Vegas, a little bit less technical of a course, and a lot of what you get experience wise from disc golf is learning how to scramble, learning how to manage a technical course. And so that's going to be naturally where she struggles the most, because she's so early in her disc golf career. So I believe in the hype. I watched her play, and she can play. There's no doubt that she can
Yeah.
play forehand, backhand. But it's just, those parts of the game that need time and experience is where she's going to have to put the work in. So excited to see new blood, and hopefully this is invigorating. It sounds like she's more than motivated enough to get that career going. And yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also a realist that she's still going to need a couple years to really refine those edges of the game. Like we've seen with,
Yes.
Other women, like Holland Hanley came out. That's sort of who I would compare it to, is a ton of ability, a ton of athleticism, and you just need to put in the hours of learning how to manage a round of disc golf. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say I have a cautiously optimistic approach as well. I think the funny thing is I think she actually would do really well at this event because I believe she is from Texas and she's played this course quite a bit. And in one of the podcasts I listened to, she said she thought she shot a 9 down in one round,
Yeah, that's
which 9 down was the score I believe that last year took the tournament. So if that's something that she can repeat, then I think she'd do really well. I'd be curious to see what she's like under pressure. Like you said, she's pretty new to tour, and any interview that I've kind of heard her in, she's a very confident person, but she is a little bit. She did kind of have a little bit of nerves show in just her the way she was talking. So if she
yeah.
can tune up the camera, then I think she'll do all right. I guess it's one of those things I can't wait to watch. And I guess all I can say is if you're in fantasy disc golf and you have a free bench spot, it might be worth stashing her because she could be that breakout player this year. So
She is 903 rated, 902 rated,
Yes.
but
Yes.
the rating is going to go up for sure.
Yes.
But I'm not a hater, but my prediction is she gets her butt absolutely handed to her in round one, and then storms back and cashes and has two really good rounds to follow it up. That's my prediction.
I think I'm with you on that one. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's a fair outcome.
And I'm excited to see Kristen Tatar, see where her game's at. I'm excited to see Paige Pierce back again. It's almost the entire top end field, basically minus Valerie Mondahano at this point, is back. So
She was close. I think she said she played a couple practice rounds, but it just wasn't quite there. So
yeah, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 women who are 970 rated or higher,
wow.
which is unbelievable if you've been watching for a number of years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Very
and then
cool.
there's Hannah Blomroos, Katrina Allen, and Holland Hanley are in the high 960s. So the level and the competitiveness and the parity in women's disc golf is amazing right now. Also, Owen Scoggins is the second highest rated in the field. Owen Scoggins is rated higher than Paige Pierce right now.
Yeah, because she's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Owen Scoggins fan. It's funny because like I always kind of I guess I don't ever really count her as being one of those women that can really compete for wins, and I don't know why. It's just maybe because she's always kind of like she's always at the top, but she's never at the top. You know what I mean? She's always in that conversation, but she's never like
She hasn't had the signature win. Like
exactly.
she's a better, more consistent player than Missy Gannon, and I think we probably both think of Missy Gannon as a higher level competitor a lot of the time. But Owen Scoggins is arguably a better player than everybody except for Kristen Tatar and Paige Pierce right now.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to watch. That's for sure. All right, the other big news that dropped this week, just yesterday. I can't quite remember now. Dynamic discs sold. They are now a part of what is called House of Discs. And if you're curious about what that is, it is
an entire house made up of discs, which is all of our dream. That's what my ex-wife used to call this place. No, I'm just kidding. That was long before disc golf.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. House of Discs.
No, that's all right. I don't have the names in front of me, but it is funded by two venture capitalists out of Europe, and they are, of course, the people that bought Latitude 64 and Castoplast and all that stuff. So it's the way that people can look at it right now is, you know how Coca-Cola has their sort of big major brand, and they have Coca-Cola, but they also have like Sprite and that like different varieties of brands within that one brand. That's kind of how you can look at this in a way. House of Disc owns a number of brands, and they can all kind of complement each other. Everything was all kind of a handshake deal beforehand, where Dynamic Disc was taking care of a lot of the American distribution of Latitude 64 and whatnot, and then Latitude was taking care of a lot of the actual disc making of Dynamic Disc. So
the entirety of the disc making.
Yes, yeah. So I think it's an interesting move to have this, because I feel like it's just kind of brings everything together and makes one big giant powerhouse. And so I guess my question for you, Matt, to get your opinion on this is, what do you think this means for companies like Innova and Discraft who may not be a part of this? And do you foresee this giant conglomerate buying out more companies in disc golf?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, that is sort of the MO of venture capitalists, is if they believe in a market, they're going to want to grab as much of that market as they possibly can. And then obviously there's limits before you sort of reach consumer blowback of this is way too much market concentration. So I'm certain that we'll see a couple of more companies join the fray. Like I could see a company like Clash Discs. Obviously, they have Castaplast under their umbrella. I can't remember if that Castaplast acquisition was before or after the venture capital acquisition in Latitude
I
64.
think it was before. I think it was before, and I thought at the time I thought it wasn't a full takeover. I thought it was
Yeah,
just part, but I'm not sure how that's all working now.
that was my impression too, but it seems like they fully own Castaplast, Westside Discs, obviously, and then also the company that makes Disc Golf Valley, which is, hey, there's a lot of ways to make money in disc golf these days, and making a fun mobile game is one of those. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting, and I could see one or two other brands, but I think if you get disc golfers tend to be pretty brand loyal, and they identify themselves with the manufacturers and brands that they throw. And not a lot of disc golfers, I can imagine, are going to be super excited about, hey, I'm part of team giant venture capital money out of Europe.
Yeah.
Like Innova is the guy that created the first beveled edge golf disc, and he's still designing discs, and they're out of California, and it's the roots of the sport. And Discraft is, also kind of in a similar boat, and they make 1 million ultimate discs. And it's just not quite the same to be like, yeah, I really love this venture capital company, these billionaires that saw a growing market and decided to cash in on it. So
Well, yeah, I agree, especially with a lot of the diehards who have roots in the sport. My curiosity is that you see a lot of younger players and people that are up and coming looking for any opportunity to get sponsored that they can.
mhm.
And that's where I think a company like this can thrive, because they have the backing and they have that ability. Now, what I think is very interesting, I listened to a podcast today, The Upshot, and Jeremy Rusko, who is the previous owner of Dynamic Disc, was the one that they were interviewing. And they kind of brought up the idea of having a publicly traded company.
Mhm.
And so the thing that I found interesting about that was that you could either be sponsored by a company, or you could buy into a company.
Mhm.
And which disc, like if you bought into a company, which disc do you think you'd be throwing? Do you think you'd be throwing the disc that you bought into?
Yeah.
So it'd be like a really kind of roundabout way of sponsoring players without having to sponsor them. Uh,
Yeah, have them sponsor you.
yeah, exactly. I just thought it was an interesting take. I think that is a definite possibility in the sport. Whether it's good or not, I don't know.
Yeah. But it's certainly uncharted territory. I don't know if I would invest in a disc golf company. I mean, scratch that. Disc golf manufacturing company. Yeah, but maybe yeah, that might be kind of cool for people to be. That's like, it's the people's company. We're all a part of this company, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
The one thing I do know, like, was talking about sponsorship, and will this open the door? I think it might almost do the opposite if they're looking to do an IPO, because if you're doing an IPO and your company is not profitable because you're paying a whole bunch of players to represent your product and not seeing the return on that, then I don't know if that would go well. So I don't know if we'll see a huge uptick in spending on player promotions, but I could see, kind of like we've been seeing, an attempt to lock down the top handful of players in the game. Like, I think they are looking at their bank accounts and saying, okay, how big a truck do we need to rent to back up a pile of money to Eagle McMahon this offseason?
Yeah.
if we're gonna have
Or
an IPO, let's have Eagle McMahon on board with this.
or maybe not even next season, but this season, with a certain player who is having legal troubles right now with his current brand.
Yeah, you could make some of those legal troubles go away pretty quickly.
Yes.
I just don't know that Gannon Burr is that marketable. Maybe I'm just a hater, but
I
I just
I
don't know
think
how
he
marketable he is.
I think he is. I don't think he's as marketable as Eagle McMahon maybe yet, but I think he's not. I don't think he's that far off. Like I think he could be. Um, I think he's very talented and he's young, and I think he's going to inspire a lot of people who are also young. So, um, the last thing I'll say on this whole thing is if you don't have venture capitalists coming after the main item in your sport, then are you a sport?
That's a good point. It's such fast growing. We keep talking about how fast growing it is, and it's just like, yeah, this is confirmation that
It's another
it
sign.
really is a quickly growing sport.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the other companies that one of the two venture capitalists in this VC operation do, and it's like high end retail goods. A lot of it, healthcare brands, lifestyle, a lot of lifestyle brands, basically, a lot of men's clothing, women's clothing, natural, scented therapeutics, things like that. Like, I hate to say it, but a lot of yuppie stuff. So I think they've, see the potential of disc golf as fitting into that yuppie demographic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting take on that. What do you think about Discmania? Because I know Latitude makes a lot of Discmania discs as well. Do you think there's a chance that they go after Discmania? And do you think it would cost more to acquire Discmania than it did to acquire Dynamic?
No,
No.
I don't. I don't think that Discmania does the volume of discs that their sort of perceived position in the market would indicate.
Lead you to believe, yeah.
Yeah. We don't really see a lot, but yeah. I mean, and I don't think they have as much infrastructure, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's more.
No, and that's the thing is like I don't think they have that infrastructure either. Like I said, they rely on Latitude already quite a bit for a lot of their molding and whatnot, which I guess also begs the question: how much will that relationship continue on if they don't get bought out by them? Do you think that because obviously they're going to give priority to their own brands if the demand goes up again? Yeah, I think it's all just really interesting to watch. That's interesting from the business side. So, yeah.
And we don't really know if UC is coming back to a prominent public role in that company or not. I mean, that might be a big part of the decision making too, because I assume he's one of the owners still, right?
Yeah.
I think there's two of them that are sort of the main owners. But yeah, that might lead into it too. Does he want to come back to the public eye? Maybe he doesn't. Who knows?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that develops, and if there are any other companies that are bought out. And the other thing I think it affects is in a sort of roundabout way is also Lone Star Disc as well. Just as far as like having that money backing and everything. It's interesting. It'll be really interesting in the disc manufacturing market in the next few years. So
I think we're just going to see more and more consolidation, because to get up to the volume that you need to get to compete as a disc actual manufacturer, that number is just going to go up and up and up. So it's going to be hard to jump into that market with like 2 injection molding machines.
yes,
where there's somebody manually doing that work and grinding down the flashings. And that was possible 5 years ago, where you could get into the market and have one machine and start a company and build a brand that way. But I think that's going to become less and less, and it's going to be more and more, the actual machining of the discs is going to become more and more consolidated into a handful of companies like Trilogy, Innova, Discraft, MVP, and now we'll see, Lone Star.
Yeah, very interesting. I wish we could have got Jesse's take on this. I think this is something that he'd have quite a few good insights on as well. So maybe we'll have to ask him about it the next time he's on. So
tough luck, Jesse. I hope your car is doing okay.
Yeah, Yes. Hope your car and everything else involved is doing great. That's all I got. Do you have anything else?
Thank you guys for watching the Lethbridge coverage. We had a bit of an audio hiccup in round 3, so appreciate you guys being patient, and we re-uploaded that, and we're working out the kinks, and we are going to I don't know if we're gonna see the Falcons flight coverage first or another mystery one yet to be announced, but I believe probably sometime this month we should have some more coverage coming out, if knock on wood, if all things go well.
There's an easy way for people to find out, and that's if you go to youtube.com, find Park Pro, like and subscribe, hit the bell, as they say.
Yeah.
And you'll get
500 on our way to 1,000. Tell your friends. It helps us a ton. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers before the tournament season starts, we will be excited, and we will try and think of something cool to do. Maybe a giveaway. Who knows? I got a bunch of cool discs sitting around in the house, so let's get that subscriber count to 1,000. It's free. Did I mention it's free, Andre? Did you know that it's free to subscribe to our YouTube channel?
It's very free. In fact, I might do it. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm.
What? You're not subscribed?
No, I just subscribed already. But
tell your dog, tell your aunt, tell your dead grandma, tell the president of Turkey.
If your dog doesn't have an account, make an account for them. Subscribe. Like Matt said, it goes a long ways. That 1,000 subscriber mark would be largely beneficial for us. So, and that being said, the other way that you can support us, if you want to support us directly, is through Patreon, of course. That's patreon.com/parkpro. We really appreciate everyone that can contribute there. You guys are the ones that are making this possible for us. So,
and just the coolest group of people too. Every time we talk to our patrons, it's like
good group of people. Yeah, Brett's been one of the first supporters as well. So, who knows, if you support us for long enough and you have some cool stuff that you want to talk about, we'll bring you onto the podcast as well. So, we love people that are active in the disc golf world. So, it's great.
Yeah, good episode, Andre. We don't need no stinking Jesse.
Yeah,
but I miss him, and I'm looking forward to.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Matt, take us out.
From all of us here at Parked Pro, listen, if you didn't think of something funny to say at the end of the podcast episode, just go with whatever. It's like, use the top of, it's right at the top of just go with it, and it'll be